And the first item is to call the special meeting to order, which we've just done at 7:30. And the second is appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. And we're going to be looking at vacancies for the expired terms on the various boards and commissions. And we're also going to be looking at appointing to the Route 17 Recreational Complex Steering Committee, which we formed on August 5th. And then we're also going to be putting some names forward. I'm sure there'll be more names for the 175th Celebration Committee for the town's anniversary. And then another review committee that I wanted to put together. There's some people that had been on water and sewer in the past, and I would like them to consider getting together once we get the water and sewer study that Ty and Bond is making up, to take a look at that and give some additional advice in addition to the Water and Sewer Commission. So I've prepared a draft sheet for you. None of these names are appointed until they're nominated and voted on tonight. Some of these names may have been asked, some have not. And we're going to move ahead with at least some of these. There's going to still be some vacancies, and we would encourage people, if they're interested in being on any board or commission, they can certainly let my office know, and then I let the selectmen know if they're interested in serving in various capacities in our town. So I think for ease of the meeting, we can start with the Conservation Commission. Okay. Is there any appointments? Kathy?
I'd like to reappoint Paula B. Aguilati to the Conservation Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Carl?
Which the reappointment would be Kirschberg?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to put Michael's name forward for reappointment.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Seconded by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So the next would be the Economic Development Commission. Kathy?
Yes, I'd like to appoint Elwin Giles to the Economic Development Commission.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Was that Fred?
Sure.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Carl? Mark? Judge?
Yeah, right. Let's reappoint Mark.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mike, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Now, the next, the Emergency Management Advisory Board, we haven't filled that recently because there is a regional board that we are a member of. However, I'm making a suggestion that the Emergency Management Director, a representative from the Police Department, representative from Fire Marshal, someone from the CERT team, and someone from the Fire Department, in that order. And I've spoken at least to the Fire Chief about this, and he thinks that would be valuable to meet on occasion or whenever there might be the need for some emergency management advice for us. So that's why I've put this forward. I'm not even sure of these folks' affiliations, but I know that there's at least one unaffiliated there, so we know that we would be balanced. So is there a nomination
Do you
for
want me to read
Dave?
those names?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to nominate, I'll list the five.
Yes.
Okay, David Blaze, Ronald Millardo, Raymond Zajac, Jane Klemba, and Robert Shea to Emergency Management Advisory Board.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Carl Chotzik. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next is the Ethics Commission.
I'd like to reappoint J. E. Swanson.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mike Pelton, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Housing Authority, Kathy?
I have a new appointment, A. T. White Jr.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Carl Chudzik, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Reappoint John R. Stewart.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next would be Inland Wetlands Commission. Kathy,
I'd like to reappoint Jay Sakian.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Carl?
I'd like to reappoint Richard W. Moran.
Second.
Seconded by Kathy Richards. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'd like to reappoint Robert W. Hedrick, Jr.
Seconded by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Library Board. Kathy?
I'd like to reappoint Margot Chapman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike Pelton. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Kathy?
I'd like to reappoint no.
Not
Sorry.
Jan. No,
No.
she didn't want to re-up.
Lorraine Neville.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. Thank you, Ben. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, Page 2. This would be long-range capital improvements.
I'd
Kathy?
like to reappoint Michael D. Aguilotti.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to reappoint Joseph E. Prokoff.
Seconded by Mike. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Kathy?
I'd like to make a new appointment, Howard Rosenbaum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Fred Nouse. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
For
Parks and Rec.
Park and Rec, I'd like to reappoint Karen Reddick.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'd like to reappoint Stephen P. Steinkamp.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And I'd like to reappoint Eric R. Peterson.
Seconded by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Carl?
I'd like to, on planning and zoning,
Yep.
I'd like to reappoint Chantel Foster.
Is there-
Second.
Seconded by Kathy Richards. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Kathy?
I'd like to appoint Terry A. Grady to planning and zoning.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'd like
Carl?
to reappoint Bruce Tyler.
Second.
Seconded by Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Everybody's in favor. Senior Citizens Advisory Committee.
I'd like to reappoint Francis E. Scholl.
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to reappoint Patricia Tomaso.
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to reappoint Ruth Mayo.
Second.
Seconded by Ben.
Ben.
Thank you.
Madam
All
Clerk.
in favor?
Aye.
Water and Sewer Commission, these are reappointments.
I'd like
Kathy?
to reappoint James J. Rito.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Carl Chudzik. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to reappoint Arthur R. Hedrick, Jr.
Second.
Seconded by Mike Pelton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Youth Services Advisory Board.
I'd like to reappoint Margaret R. Stewart.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to reappoint Elizabeth R. Moran.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Now, the Board of Assessment Appeals, there are vacancies in the alternates. This is not a revaluation year. I don't think they are requesting that we make those appointments. Next year, there will be a revaluation, and they'll probably have many, many appeals, so they may ask for alternates at that time. So we'll move on to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and this would be to fill, actually Ben's term that he is unable to complete, being that he's a selectman. So Kathy,
I'd like to appoint Rose Aletta.
is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Fred?
Fred.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to reappoint Gloria Godovin.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ben. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now this is the Recreational Complex Steering Committee. And these names, I'm gonna read them just so that everybody hears the names, and they'll hear them again when they're nominated. And this is the steering committee that is going to help do a lot of the work associated with getting the Route 17 project on the ballot in November and explaining things and vetting the project. Eric Kissinger, Joseph Inglis, Carla McKay, Jessica Labadia, Ann Fisher, Stephanie Messina, and Richard Basso. And there are 2 alternates who would also serve, Aaron Gatto and Jessica Stalmach. So I would ask for a nomination for the members of this committee.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Carl
Yep.
and seconded by Kathy Richards. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And thank you to all, I believe there are 9. Is that right?
Yep,
1, 2,
that's right.
volunteers for that committee. Now, the 175th Anniversary Celebration Committee, and this can be made up as many people as are interested. At this point, we know that Sharon Hoy, Edna Markham, William Walensky, Robert McDougall, and Sarah Maluzzo have offered their names. And any other folks, we have a couple of nominees, but we're not going to nominate them tonight because they haven't said yes or no yet. So is there a nomination for that committee?
So moved.
Kathy Richards, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Carl Chudzik. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And then this other group, which again, it's simply a committee. It is not a chartered group, so it would be simply to review the report and give some input to us. Those names are former members of the Water and Sewer Commission. They're no longer members. James McCabe, Thomas Malecki, and Thomas Bransfield.
So moved.
Motion made by Kathy Richards, seconded by Mike Pelton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is Arthur Hittrick in there too?
No.
No.
No, that's
That was
an
a
error.
mistake.
That's an
Okay.
error. He's on the Water and Sewer
Yes, I know.
Commission. Yeah, that's an
Can't be
error.
on
Doesn't need to be,
both? Okay,
because they'll be meeting together, I suspect, when they
Okay.
look at this report.
okay.
Um,
So I'll be on there anyway
Yes.
as liaison.
Yes. And
Okay.
again, if other people want to be on that committee, one idea that I had, and I haven't gotten answers yet, is I would like some employees of those departments to consider being on that committee, and I think it would be helpful to hear their input on water and sewer and a lot of the work that's going to be done by Ty and Bond on that $50,000 study.
Okay.
So that ends our work at this point on boards and commissions. I will point out, for the record, there are some vacancies still existing in the Conservation Commission, the Economic Development Commission, the Housing Authority for a tenant, resident representative, and a vacancy in Inland Wetlands alternate, a vacancy in the Library Board, and a vacancy in an alternate for Parks and Recreation Commission. Hillary had indicated she didn't want to continue, so. 2 alternates for Planning and Zoning Commission. There's a vacancy in the Cedar Citizens Advisory Board. There is a vacancy in Youth Services Advisory Board. I already talked about the Board of Assessment Appeals alternates. And there is 1 vacancy in the Zoning Board of Appeals alternate. And then there's welcome opportunities for members of the Anniversary Committee and also in the Water Sewer Report Review Committee. So I thank everybody for their diligence on this, and certainly thank all of the members of the community that have volunteered for so many years to help us out. We're going to need a motion to go into executive session,
So
and the reason for it is police security matters. And I will announce that we have 2 people that will be joining us, Lieutenant Millardo and Sergeant Cunningham. Is there a motion, Carl?
Yep.
Second.
Seconded by Fred? Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
We'll
Happy
take
New
a
Year.
brief recess.